Hey, Ghoulash here, and welcome to another episode of The GHOULOG. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about Halloween 2018. Yeah, it doesn't really have a title yet, so that's pretty much all I can call it. It's still in production. In fact, it started production. It was in pre-production for the longest time, but it finally got into production just recently. But before I get into that, let's talk about the history of this film, or the prehistory, to be more precise. You see, following Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, those tenacious Weinstein brothers decided they wanted to make another Halloween film. They wanted to spark a new horror franchise out of Halloween. But Rob Zombie was not interested in continuing with that series. So they decided, let's make a sequel to Rob Zombie's Halloween films, but let's just not have Rob Zombie direct it. It was going to be a 3D movie, which just sounds absolutely wonderful. A 3D Halloween film. It doesn't sound appealing, and it especially didn't sound appealing because it was, you know, the Rob Zombie films are kinda controversial among fans, but I feel like if you bring someone else in to make a Rob Zombie style movie, it's just gonna be even worse than if it was just an actual Rob Zombie movie. So thankfully, Halloween 3D never happened. Instead, Malik Akkad decided he wanted to go off on his own and make an independent Halloween sequel. It was going to be called Halloween Returns, which is not really a title that makes a whole lot of sense, because Halloween comes every year anyway, like the holiday itself, so what's returning? I know it's Michael Myers, but they already called a film Halloween: The Return of Michael Myers, so they couldn't do that. It was a very illogical working title. The film was going to be about Michael Myers. He was going to be executed, and he manages to escape. While he was in the prison, some teenage girls with some kind of connection to him decide they want to sneak in and see this execution for themselves. So they're stuck right in the crossfires of Michael Myers, essentially, on Halloween when they're doing the execution, which, you know, probably don't execute Michael Myers on Halloween. Just execute him on St. Patrick's Day or something. I mean, come on. But yeah, that was the premise of the last film, and it sounded kind of boring. It was supposed to be a recalibration of the Halloween series that didn't really take place anywhere on any timeline, just its own thing. But that film languished in development hell, and it was eventually canceled. We don't have Halloween Returns, and it was supposed to come out for the longest time. But now, Blumhouse is bringing us a new Halloween film. Blumhouse has a history of making some quality horror films. They're one of the best independent film companies out there because they let directors have their visions and shit like that and make the kinds of horror films they want to make. There was kind of some iffiness with Blumhouse's film, at least early on. It's supposedly, well, it definitely is being written by Danny McBride, who is a great comedic actor, and he has co-created many comedic television shows of great acclaim. But it seemed kind of weird that he was co-creating a Halloween film. He's co-creating a horror film. And it made you wonder, is this going to be a comedy? And he made it clear early on, no, it's not. It's not going to be a comedy at all. It's going to be a serious Halloween film. The other co-writer and the director of the film is David Gordon Green, which is pretty cool. He's directed a lot of great movies, a director of great acclaim. He mostly works in drama and some comedy. He did Pineapple Express, of course, with Danny McBride. But just because he is a prestigious director of dramas, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a great horror film. We'll have to wait and see. But it does give me more confidence, because he has more credibility than just a guy who directed like fucking Piranha 3D or whatever. Of course, one of the biggest bits of news was John Carpenter is producing the film. He hasn't been involved in Halloween sequels at all since Halloween 3. He's washed his hands of the franchise famously, but he's back. You might say, well, you know, he's probably just collecting a paycheck, which, of course, is true. He's obviously going to be collecting a paycheck. The fact that he is a producer at least lets you imagine that maybe he's involved in some capacity with the creation of this film. It might not be true. but whatever. The most promising thing, though, is that he might be composing the music for the film, which would be a pretty big deal. It'd be really cool. Of course, we probably won't know that until really late into post-production of this film. Music is one of the last things you add to a film, so we might not know until the last minute. Jamie Lee Curtis was also announced as returning to the franchise as Laurie Strode, which is controversial because that kind of confirms that this is taking place in its own sort of timeline. But I'm kind of fine with that. We've seen Michael go after family members for fucking decades. It's played out. I'd like to see Laurie Strode done justice without being like, you know, just an extension of Michael Myers' family. Just have her be her own person that's sort of caught in the crosshairs of this maniac all the way even into her fucking late middle age. This guy's still coming after her. And speaking of which, someone else is returning from the first Halloween film, another cast member. Nick Castle is returning as Michael Myers. That's such a big deal because he has never played Michael Myers at all in any of the sequels. Of course, this also brings up another iffy topic. Nick Castle is old, obviously, and he's not in the best shape, at least based on recent pictures. Of course, he can get into shape, but that confirms that this is definitely the Michael Myers we knew. It's a weird decision, but it makes it much more of a pure Halloween 2 in a lot of ways, where it brings back everybody except for Dr. Loomis because, well, they might bring him back in some other way, though. There's archive footage. We might see footage of Donald Pleasance returning as Dr. Loomis in some way. But Nick Castle, he can get into shape. At the end of the day, Michael Myers doesn't run around or anything. He walks. So, could look silly or it could look just fine, as long as he looks good in the suit. So, it's not that big of a deal. He's not running around. There's not a lot of stunts in the first Halloween anyway, so wait and see. Now, finally, like I said, production has just begun, which means they don't really have a lot of time to shoot this film and have post-production and market it. I kind of wonder how they're gonna make their release date in time. I'm kind of wondering how they'll pull it off. A cast was also announced, the young cast members, so it's not gonna be old Jamie Lee Curtis exclusively. We're gonna have some new characters, and they're mostly unknown. You might have seen them in other things like Stranger Things or whatever, but they're mostly unknown, which is good. I'm tired of like super attractive, like supermodel looking characters in horror movies. It's kind of cool to see like unknown actors and actresses that look like regular people. Another bit of good news that I like. Now, to wrap things up, I'm going to end with a new segment, Questions for Ghoulash. In this segment, you can send me questions in the comments section, and I'll answer them in a video. Maybe. Depends on how good the question is. Alright, the first question is from Paul Not Walking. He asks, is your dick green too? I'm gonna have to rethink this whole segment if this is the kind of question I'm gonna get. But to answer it, I guess it would have to be, subscribe to Dr. Wolfula's channel and follow him on the social media. I've been Ghoulash. You fucking weirdos.